Commander Alina Blackwood stood at the observation deck of the International Cultural Exchange Station, watching the approaching Nexian vessel. Its crystalline structure caught Earth's sunlight, creating prismatic patterns across the station's walls. After 20 years of deep space communications, humanity was finally meeting their first alien civilization face-to-face. The Nexians had reached out 3 years ago, expressing interest in Earth's cultural transmissions that had been traveling through space. Unlike many human first contact scenarios, they weren't interested in our technology or resources. They were fascinated by our art, particularly our music. Alina adjusted her formal uniform and checked the tablet containing her welcome speech. As Earth's chief cultural liaison, she had spent months preparing for this moment. The airlock cycled, and Alina held her breath as it opened. The being that emerged moved with fluid grace, its translucent body seeming to ripple with internal light. Delicate sensory filaments extended from its head like a crown of fiber optic cables, each one pulsing with subtle colors. This was Vexther, the renowned Nexian anthropologist who had specifically requested to study human culture. "Welcome to Earth Station," Alina said, her voice steady despite her racing heart. "I'm Commander Alina Blackwood." Vexther's filaments rippled with blues and greens. "Your voice," they said, their own words emerging as a melodic hum translated through their communication device. "It contains such fascinating harmonics. Even in simple greeting, humans create music." Alina blinked, surprised. "I wasn't singing," she explained. "That was just normal speech." "Precisely what makes it remarkable," Vexther responded, their filaments now showing patterns of gold. "Your species embeds musical elements into everyday communication. We Nexians must consciously choose to create harmonics. You do it naturally, unconsciously." As Alina led Vexther through the station, she noticed how they paused at every new sound, the hum of air recyclers, the distant laughter of crew members, the soft beeping of equipment. Each noise seemed to entrance them, their filaments dancing with new colors. Their first stop was the station's common area, where off-duty Officer Marcus Rodriguez was playing guitar for a small group of crew members. Vexther froze at the entrance, their entire body becoming still except for their sensory filaments, which erupted in a spectacular light show. This is beyond our predictions," Vexther whispered, their translated voice trembling. "The vibrations, the patterns, the way your people respond. What is happening to their facial muscles? Their respiratory rates are elevating, yet they appear to be experiencing pleasure." Alina smiled. "They're enjoying the music. Marcus is quite talented. Music has a way of affecting us emotionally, physically. It's part of what makes us human." Emotional responses triggered by organized sound waves. Vexther's fascination was evident in their rapidly changing colors. "We detected your music transmissions, studied them theoretically, but experiencing it in person. The complexity of your reactions is extraordinary." Over the next few hours, Alina watched as Vexther documented everything: the way humans nodded along to rhythm, how they smiled at particular harmonies, the spontaneous foot tapping that accompanied upbeat tunes. What seemed natural to her was revolutionary to them. During the official welcome dinner, Vexther made an unexpected request. "Commander Blackwood, my preliminary observations suggest that music is far more integral to human society than we initially theorized. I request permission to extend my stay and expand my research parameters." Alina exchanged glances with her second-in-command, Lieutenant James Chen. This wasn't part of the original diplomatic agreement, but the enthusiasm in Vexther's voice was impossible to miss. "What exactly are you proposing?" Alina asked. "I wish to understand how music shapes human development, how it influences your social structures, your emotional processing, your cultural evolution. Our species has achieved remarkable technological advancement, but we may have overlooked something fundamental about consciousness itself: the role of artistic expression in cognitive development." Alina considered the implications. This could be more than just cultural exchange. It could be the key to genuine understanding between their species. "I'll need to consult with Earth Council, but I support your request. In the meantime, would you like to attend tonight's concert? The station's string quartet is performing. Vexther's filaments blazed with excitement. There is more music happening now. There's always more music, Alina laughed. That's another thing about humans we never stop creating. As they walked to the concert hall, Alina realized that this was just the beginning. Through Vexther's alien perspective, she was seeing her own species in a new light. Humans didn't just make music. They lived it, breathed it, wove it into the very fabric of their existence. And now, through this unexpected cultural exchange, they might help another species discover the universal language of emotion and creativity. 3 weeks into Vexther's extended stay on the International Cultural Exchange Station, the Global Music Festival was in full swing. Holographic performances from Earth beamed directly into the station's main hall, transforming the sterile space into a vibrant celebration of human musical diversity. Lieutenant James Chen found Vexther floating motionless in front of a holographic performance of a Japanese taiko drum ensemble. The Nexian's filaments were pulsing in perfect synchronization with the thunderous beats. "Are you all right?" James asked, concerned by their stillness. "Your readings seem intense." Vexther's translated voice emerged with unusual resonance. "The vibrations, they echo through my entire cellular structure. How do humans withstand such powerful sensations without becoming overwhelmed?" "We don't just withstand it," James explained, smiling. "We seek it out. Some people travel thousands of miles to feel those drums in person." The next performance began, a throat singer from Mongolia. Vexther's filaments shifted from deep red to shimmering gold. "Impossible," they whispered. "One vocal apparatus producing multiple tones simultaneously, the physiological control required." "Wait until you hear the collaborative pieces," James said, checking his schedule. "There's a fusion performance coming up, classical Indian sitar with electronic music and African percussion." Vexther turned their sensory crown toward him. "Your species deliberately combines different musical traditions. Does this not create conflict?" "Sometimes it creates magic instead," James replied. "Humans have a talent for finding harmony in unexpected places." The festival continued, and Vexther's observations grew more sophisticated. They began to notice patterns not just in the music, but in the human responses to it. During a particularly moving piano concerto, they noticed Officer Yuki Tanaka wiping tears from her eyes. "You are experiencing liquid secretions," Vexther noted, their filaments dimming with concern. "Are you unwell?" Yuki laughed softly. "No, I'm deeply moved. This piece. It reminds me of my grandmother. She used to play piano." The music triggered a memory response, which then induced a physiological reaction. Vexther's filaments sparkled with excitement. The interconnection between sound, memory, and emotional expression is far more complex than our initial studies suggested. As the festival progressed, Vexther began compiling what they called an emotional harmonic database. They documented every piece of music played, along with detailed observations of human reactions, heart rates, facial expressions, body movements, and emotional responses. During a break between performances, Commander Alina Blackwood found Vexther in their temporary laboratory, surrounded by holographic data displays. "You've been at this for hours," she observed. "What have you discovered?" "Something remarkable," Vexther replied, their filaments dancing with enthusiasm. "Humans use music not just for communication or pleasure, but as a tool for emotional regulation, social bonding, and even healing. When Officer Rodriguez was experiencing stress yesterday, he sought out specific frequencies that altered his neurological state. When the maintenance crew was struggling with a difficult repair, Chief Engineer Park started humming, and the team unconsciously synchronized their movements to her rhythm." Alina nodded. "Music has always been part of who we are. Every human culture throughout history has created it in some form." "But that's just it," Vexther said, their translated voice rising with excitement. "You treat it as natural, unremarkable, yet you've developed an intuitive understanding of vibrational physics that my species is only beginning to grasp theoretically. The way humans instinctively manipulate sound waves to affect consciousness. It's extraordinary." Their conversation was interrupted by the beginning of the evening's headline performance, a global virtual choir, with thousands of voices from around Earth joining in perfect harmony. Vexther's filaments erupted in a cascade of colors never seen before on the station. "Commander," they said, their voice trembling, "I must share this with my people. The Nexian High Council needs to understand that what we initially dismissed as simple entertainment is actually a sophisticated technology of consciousness. Human music isn't just art, it's a fundamental force for cognitive evolution." Alina watched as Vexther's filaments synchronized with the choir's harmony, their translucent body beginning to glow from within. The alien researcher was no longer just observing human music, they were being transformed by it. "There's something else you should know," Alina said softly. "This festival, it's not special. Somewhere on Earth, every moment of every day, humans are making music. It's as natural to us as breathing." Vexther's response was delayed as they processed this information. "Then perhaps," they finally said, "we have not just discovered a new species, we have discovered a new way of being." As the choir's final notes faded, Alina realized that this cultural exchange was becoming something far more profound than anyone had anticipated. Through Vexther's eyes, humanity was beginning to understand its own unique gift, the ability to transform invisible waves of sound into bridges between hearts and minds, between worlds and species, between the known and the infinite possibilities that lay ahead. The crisis began with a transmission from the Nexian High Council. Commander Alina Blackwood watched as the crystalline forms of the Council materialized in the station's holographic chamber, their collective filaments pulsing with alarming patterns of deep purple and black. "Researcher Vexther," the Council's prime speaker harmonized, their translated voice unusually sharp. "Your latest reports are causing significant disruption within our society. Young Nexians are attempting to replicate human musical behaviors. There are reports of unauthorized harmonic gatherings. The collective resonance of our cities is becoming chaotic." Vexther's filaments dimmed to a muted blue. "Honored Council, these developments support my findings. Human music's influence on consciousness is precisely what concerns us," interrupted another council member. "Our society is built on carefully maintained harmonics. This human music introduces unpredictable variables. We are recalling you immediately. The exchange program will be terminated." Alina stepped forward. "With respect, council members, perhaps we could." The transmission cut off abruptly, leaving the chamber in tense silence. Lieutenant James Chen found Alina and Vexther in the station's observation deck an hour later, watching Earth rotate below. "The Nexian transport will arrive in 6 hours," he reported. "But there's something else. The crew, they want to do something before Vexther leaves." In the main hall, Officer Rodriguez had gathered musicians from across the station. Dr. Patel with her sitar, Officer Tanaka on synthesizer, Chief Park holding traditional Korean drums, and others with various instruments. They had been secretly practicing during off hours, trying to create something that would translate across species. "We believe music can bridge this gap," Rodriguez explained to Vexther, "but we need your help to prove it." Vexther's filaments flickered with uncertainty. "The Council has already—" "Forget the Council for a moment," Alina interrupted. "What have you learned about human music that might help them understand?" Vexther was silent for a long moment, their filaments shifting through various colors. "Human music," they finally said, "is not just about creating pleasing sounds, it's about connection. When humans make music together, their neural patterns synchronize. Their heartbeats align. They create something greater than themselves." "Then help us show that to your people," Alina urged. Over the next few hours, Vexther worked with the station's musicians, using their specialized sensors to analyze the harmonic patterns that most resonated with Nexian physiology. They discovered that certain combinations of frequencies could create visual patterns in their filaments that matched ancient Nexian symbolic language. When the Nexian transport arrived, instead of a confrontation, they found something unprecedented. The station's main hall had been transformed. The human musicians were arranged in a circle, with Vexther in the center. As the council members entered, the performance began. It started with a single note from Officer Tanaka's synthesizer, matched to the exact frequency of Nexian communication. Then Dr. Patel's sitar wove in a melody that mimicked the patterns of Nexian city harmonics. The Korean drums added a rhythm that matched the pulse rate of Nexian biological processes. Vexther's filaments began to glow, creating patterns that translated the music into Nexian visual language. The story they told was one of discovery, transformation, and the power of joining different worlds. The council members stood transfixed. Their own filaments began to resonate with the music, creating a spectacular light show that merged with the human performance. For the first time in recorded history, two species were literally making harmony together. As the final notes faded, the prime speaker stepped forward. Their filaments were radiating colors that none of the humans had seen before. "We came here expecting to find chaos," they said, their translated voice soft with wonder. "Instead, we have found a new kind of order, one that embraces complexity rather than fears it." Vexther's filaments brightened. "This is what I've been trying to explain. Human music isn't a threat to our harmony, it's an evolution of it. They've developed ways to channel chaos into creation, to find patterns in complexity that we never imagined possible." The council convened privately for what felt like hours. When they finally emerged, their decision was unexpected. Not only would Vexther be allowed to continue their research, but they were establishing a permanent musical exchange program. More Nexian researchers would be sent to study human music, and human musicians would be invited to visit Nexian cities. "Our species has long believed that order was the highest form of existence," the prime speaker announced. "But perhaps we have been missing half of the universe's song. These humans, with their chaotic, beautiful music, have shown us that true harmony isn't about eliminating complexity, it's about embracing it." As the council departed, Alina found Vexther in their lab, their filaments still glowing with excitement. "You know," she said, "on Earth we have an old saying, music is the universal language." "Not universal yet," Vexther replied, their translated voice carrying a new warmth. "But perhaps together we can make it so." Looking at the data displays showing the merged harmonics of human music and Nexian resonance, Alina realized they were witnessing the beginning of something revolutionary. Two species, separated by vast differences in biology and culture, had found a way to literally harmonize their existence. It wasn't just a diplomatic breakthrough. It was the first notes of a whole new kind of symphony. 6 months into the expanded cultural exchange program, the International Cultural Exchange Station had become an interstellar conservatory. The once sterile corridors now resonated with an unprecedented fusion of human music and Nexian harmonics. Commander Alina Blackwood found herself constantly amazed by the transformations occurring under her watch. In the newly constructed harmonic laboratory, Vexther worked alongside Dr. Patel and a team of human musicians and Nexian researchers. They had discovered that when human brainwaves synchronized during group performances, they created patterns remarkably similar to Nexian collective consciousness states. This finding was sending shockwaves through both scientific communities. "The implications are staggering," Vexther explained to Alina during their weekly briefing, their filaments shimmering with excitement. "We've always viewed our collective consciousness as unique to our species, but humans achieve something similar through music. You simply never had the sensors to detect it." The research was having unexpected effects on both species. Young Nexians, inspired by human creativity, began experimenting with their natural harmonic abilities in ways that challenged traditional Nexian social structures. Videos of human Nexian musical collaborations went viral across Earth's networks, sparking a new artistic movement. But not everyone welcomed these changes. Lieutenant James Chen brought Alina disturbing news during a late station cycle. "We're detecting increased chatter from conservative factions on both sides," he reported. "Some human religious groups are claiming we're corrupting the divine gift of music. And there's a growing movement among traditional Nexians calling for isolation from human influence." Alina found Vexther in the observation deck. their filaments unusually still as they watched a group of human and Nexian musicians practicing below. The piece they were creating combined classical human instruments with the natural harmonic abilities of the Nexians, creating something entirely new. "You seem troubled," Elena observed. "Change brings resistance," Vexthor responded, their translated voice carrying a new depth. "On my world, the young are abandoning traditional harmonic meditation for what they call free resonance. They're incorporating human rhythms, emotions, spontaneity. The High Council is receiving daily complaints about disrupted city frequencies." "And yet," Elena gestured to the performers below, "look what that change has created." The music rising from the chamber was unlike anything either species had heard before. A human violinist played a haunting melody while three Nexians created a shifting harmonic foundation with their natural abilities. As they played, their filaments began to glow in patterns that matched the violin's phrases, while the human musicians' brain waves, displayed on nearby monitors, synchronized with Nexian frequencies. "We're calling it quantum harmony," Vexthor explained. "The merger of human emotional expression with Nexian harmonic precision creates resonance patterns that affect both species on a subatomic level. It's as if the music is rewriting the very fabric of reality where our two species meet." The breakthrough came from an unexpected source. During a routine medical examination, Dr. Kai Rivera noticed something extraordinary in the brain scans of humans who regularly performed with Nexians. "Their neural plasticity has increased dramatically," he reported to Elena. "It's as if the exposure to Nexian harmonics is creating new pathways in their brains." Similar changes were observed in the Nexian performers. Their filaments had developed the ability to produce new colors and patterns previously unseen in their species. Some began experiencing emotional responses that their culture had long suppressed, leading to both excitement and concern among their medical experts. The station became a living laboratory of evolution in action. Human musicians found they could achieve states of consciousness previously known only in deep meditation. Nexian researchers discovered they could use their harmonic abilities to heal human psychological trauma. The boundaries between the two species began to blur in ways that both thrilled and terrified their respective societies. During a joint concert celebrating these discoveries, something unprecedented occurred. As a human choir performed alongside a Nexian harmonic ensemble, their combined frequencies triggered a phenomenon that the station's scientists are still struggling to explain. The space between the performers began to shimmer with visible waves of quantum probability, as if the music was literally altering the structure of spacetime. "We're not just making music together," Vexthor told Elena afterward, their filaments pulsing with colors that had no name in either language. "We're evolving together. Every harmony we create rewrites both our species at the quantum level." Elena watched as human and Nexian musicians gathered in small groups after the performance, their excitement transcending the need for translation devices. They communicated through music, through gesture, through the pure joy of creation. "Perhaps," she suggested, "that's what first contact should always be about, not just exchanging knowledge or resources, but finding ways to grow together." As if in response, a spontaneous jam session broke out in the corner of the hall. A human drummer and three Nexian harmonics began improvising, their music drawing others into their orbit. The air itself seemed to vibrate with possibility. "The conservative elements of both our societies fear we're losing our distinct identities," Vexthor observed. "What they don't understand is that we're gaining something far more precious, the ability to transcend them." The music swelled, human and alien sounds interweaving in ways that defied traditional physics. In that moment, Elena realized they weren't just witnessing cultural exchange. They were midwifing the birth of something entirely new. A future where the boundaries between species became less important than the harmonies they could create together. 1 year after the first Nexian arrival, the International Cultural Exchange Station prepared for an unprecedented event. The first simultaneous multiplanetary concert, broadcast live across Earth and the Nexian homeworld. Commander Elena Blackwood stood in the transformed main hall, now a sophisticated performance space equipped with both human acoustics and Nexian harmonic technology. The quantum harmonizers are calibrated, Vexther announced, their filaments rippling with anticipation. We've never attempted resonance on this scale before. The concert hall had been redesigned to accommodate both species' needs. Crystal resonators lined the walls, their surfaces engineered to amplify both traditional sound waves and Nexian harmonic frequencies. The station's power grid had been modified to handle the massive energy requirements of broadcasting quantum-entangled performances across light years. Dr. Patel approached with the latest neural scan results. The rehearsals are already showing unprecedented levels of cross-species synchronization. The human performer's brainwaves are naturally aligning with Nexian frequencies. Lieutenant James Chen monitored the incoming feeds from Earth. We're getting reports of spontaneous harmony gatherings forming in major cities. People are coming together to create their own human Nexian fusion pieces. The performance would feature 200 human musicians and 100 Nexian harmonics, creating what they called the Galactic Symphony of Unity. But this was more than just a concert. It was an experiment in consciousness itself. As the performance time approached, Elena received an urgent message from the Nexian High Council. The resonance patterns from the rehearsals are affecting our entire orbital system, the Prime Speaker reported. Our scientists have detected quantum entanglement effects spreading through the fabric of space between our worlds. Should we abort? Elena asked, concerned. The Prime Speaker's filaments pulsed with new colors. No, we must see where this leads. Our species have already evolved too far together to turn back now. The concert began with a single note, a perfect middle C from a human violin, matched with its quantum equivalent from a Nexian harmonic. The note hung in the air, bridging the vast distance between worlds. Then, gradually, more instruments joined in. Human strings and woodwinds merged with Nexian resonance patterns. Earth percussion synchronized with alien quantum frequencies. A human choir, their voices trained to match Nexian harmonics, created overtones that made the very air shimmer with possibility. The music built in complexity, layer upon layer of human emotion and Nexian precision weaving together into something entirely new. The station's quantum sensors recorded patterns never before seen in human or Nexian science. Halfway through the performance, something extraordinary happened. The combined frequencies triggered a phenomenon that the station's scientists had theorized but never witnessed, a quantum harmonic cascade. The space between the performers began to glow with patterns of pure energy, visible to both species. The music, Vexther whispered, their filaments blazing with light, it's creating a bridge between dimensions. The performers, both human and Nexian, found themselves linked in ways that transcended physical boundaries. Humans began experiencing the Nexian collective consciousness, while Nexians felt the full depth of human emotional expression. The music became a living thing, a new form of communication that existed beyond the limits of either species' natural abilities. In cities across Earth, people reported seeing strange lights in the sky, quantum effects made visible by the sheer power of the harmonics. On the Nexian homeworld, their crystal cities began resonating in perfect harmony with the music, creating spectacular displays of light and energy. As the symphony reached its climax, Elena realized they had achieved something far beyond cultural exchange. They had discovered a new form of existence, one where the boundaries between species, between mind and matter, between art and science, dissolved into pure harmony. The final movement brought together every performer in a crescendo of unprecedented power. Human instruments and voices merged with Nexian harmonics to create a sound that seemed to contain the very essence of both species' potential. The quantum bridge between worlds strengthened, and for a brief moment, every being connected to the performance experienced a glimpse of universal consciousness. When the last note faded, there was a moment of absolute silence. Then, across two worlds, celebration erupted. The barriers that had seemed so insurmountable a year ago had not just been crossed, they had been transformed into bridges. In the aftermath, as the quantum effects slowly dissipated, Alina found Vexther in their lab, analyzing the data from the performance. The effects were even more profound than we anticipated, Vexther said, their filaments still glowing with residual energy. The quantum entanglement between our worlds remains stable. We've created a permanent harmonic link between our species. What does this mean for our future? Alina asked. It means, Vexther replied, that we've only heard the first notes of what our species can create together. This isn't just about music anymore, it's about the evolution of consciousness itself. We've discovered that the universe isn't just stranger than we imagined. It's more beautiful than we could have dreamed, Alina finished, watching as new patterns of light danced between worlds, carrying the promise of endless harmonies yet to come. Outside the station, Earth and the Nexian homeworld continued their cosmic dance, now linked by invisible strands of quantum harmony. The music of two species had become one song, echoing across the stars, a symphony of unity that would resonate through the ages, calling other species to join in the eternal dance of creation.